Hello guys, and welcome back once again in the new lecture of React Native. And in this lecture we will talk about what is core component and native components. You know that React Native is a open source framework for building Android and iOS application using the React. So in the React Native we know that we use the JavaScript to access the platform API as well as describe the appearance and behavior of UI using React component. So we know that with React Native you use JavaScript to access your platform API as well as to describe the appearance and behavior of your UI using React component. So here the diagram is given, and view is the basic building block of UI. When we use the view in the Android, so we called it view group, but when we used the view in iOS, so we called this UI view. And like the same for the image view, when we used in Android, so it is called the image view, but in the iOS it is called UI image view. And here also given for the text view, when we use the text view in the Android, so it is called the text view, but in the iOS it is called UI text view. So actually native components, what is the meaning of the native components? In Android development you write view in Kotlin or Java, and in iOS we use Swift or Objective-C, but with React Native you can invoke this view with JavaScript. So actually in React Native we use the APIs to call the Android native components, and for running the iOS, React Native use API for iOS components. So with React Native you can invoke this view with JavaScript using React component. And when we run the React Native, so React Native create the corresponding Android and iOS view for those components. So it means that when we run the application for the Android, so React Native call the API for Android but with using JavaScript. So but when we run the application for the iOS, so iOS view will be used. So React Native will use the API for calling iOS components, because in React Native we use directly the native components from the iOS and Android. So the React Native apps look, feel, perform any other apps. So we call these platform backed component native components. So React Native comes with set of essential ready to use native components. When we use these component in React Native, so these are the React Native core components. So React Native also lets you build your own native components for Android and for iOS. So you can click on this link and you can read more about the native components for Android and iOS. So here a few core components is given, so we will discuss about that. So React Native has many core components, and here given the few components and we will discuss about that. So here is the React Native UI components, and you can call it as a React Native core component. So like here is the view. So view is the React Native UI component or the core component, but when we use this view in native Android, so it is called a view group, but in the React Native is called view. And when we use this view in iOS native application, so it is called UI view, but in the React Native it's called only view. So in the web it is called a div, and iOS native it is called UI view, and Android it's called group, but in React Native it's just called view. But in the React Native, for the web, for the iOS and for the Android, this single view will be used. In the same way, text view for the web it is called P, and in the iOS native it is called UI text view. In Android it is called text view, but in the React Native this single text will be work for all three platforms. And in the same image is here. So in the web it is called IMG, but in the iOS it is called UI image view, and for the Android it is called image view, but in the React Native it is just called image. Same for the scroll view div, and here it is called UI scroll view, and here is the scroll view. So here you can directly use view text image scroll view text input. So all these are the core component of the React Native, and we can directly import from the React Native package. Because we are directly using these core component from the native platform with React Native internal API, we can directly import from the React Native package and we can use in the React Native code, and it will work same. So these component will work same as we've used in the native applications. So when we run our application for the Android platform, so these component will work same as we used in the native Android application. And when we run these component for the iOS, so these component will work same as we used in native iOS application. So in the next lecture we will discuss and use each component of React Native. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please like, share and subscribe the channel.